and I'll stop there.
You come back. Ambassador?
Thank you. Let me invite the people who are standing at the back. There are still seats here which are available if they want to sit down. But thank you very much. I am very honored to participate and to learn, because learning is a continuous process. But we bring to yourselves Africa which has changed. Today we are talking about the AU celebrating 50 years. I think we need to note that a lot of the African countries themselves are not even 50 years. So that is something that we need to underline. It's something that we need to underscore. Excuse me. Secondly, when one looks at the overall objectives for which the institution was established for, which amongst others include improvement of human life, improvement of government, improvement of security and of foreign relations. These are not static. We talk about these as if they are a once-off event. Today we see major countries, major democracies, which have been independent for over 100 years, still struggling with these issues. So Africa as a continent is no exception. But we are very happy and very proud to represent Africa which is on the move. We are very happy and very proud to represent Africa which has improved faster than any other region. Today when we talk about the emerging markets and we talk about the growth of the middle class and fastest growing economies, these did not come by miracles. They came because of sacrifices. They came because leaders are doing the correct things, and they continue to do the correct things and monitor themselves. There are quite a number of challenges that Africa is going through. I think the biggest challenge is treating Africa as a country. You know, people may be sort of very surprised at this position, but to treat Africa as a country, it's one of the greatest and biggest challenges that we continue to experience. In a lot of countries, including our host country, good news is no news. So that's the biggest challenge also. That whilst there are good news coming out of Africa, this news goes by unnoticed, unreported, with a lot of bias. So one sits and say, as Africans, how do we really deal with that? We are currently challenged by not having the resources, because we are dealing with bread and butter issues, of having to pay $1 million for a 1-minute advertisement in CNN, in Fox News, in whichever media that we think people would want to listen to. So today I share with you the Africa, which is the Africa of good news. And I have used this period to say, I will be your CNN for the good news. The good news which is coming out of the continent is that today Africa is the leader in terms of women empowerment. You take a country which is the global leader, such as Rwanda, a country ravaged by the worst genocide we have known in modern times. How does a country such as Rwanda be the leader, global, world, #1 leader of women empowerment. That is important because nowadays, Africa, we are no longer talking about democracy. We are talking about participatory democracy. And that participatory democracy to us means involve everybody, involve this large, untapped resource in women who are endowed with multitasking, who are endowed with mothering everybody and mothering presidents. You know, these are just folks that you can't understand. Today, I bring you the news that when you look at the index of doing business globally, the world leader is Mauritius. How does that happen? It's not by miracle. I bring you the good news that when you look at baseline profitability index, my own country, Botswana, is #2 in the world. I think #1 is Hong Kong. I bring you the good news then that when you look to travel the world, and you know now you have this man who is called Mr. Google. I don't think it's a woman. So the good thing is that you can now go to Mr. Google and verify and check all these things. I bring you the good news that when you look at the world map of safety to travel, of where you see the red zones, of where you see the yellow zones, you will see a country such as Botswana having the green like the United States. That is good news coming out of Africa. And I also bring you the good news that when you look at Global Peace Index, which measures how peaceful the country is, you will find Botswana ranking as #30, and you'd find the US ranking as #88. This is the good news that you are not going to hear from anyone. But it is good news to us, showing you that gone are the days when you asked African leaders, Mr. President, when are you saying goodbye to your people? The president answers and says, oh, where are they going? You know, when in fact somebody was saying, Mr. President, you are kind of overstayed or something. I bring you the good news that the majority of the African countries now have a 2-term presidency. Our terms, they may be 5 years or 6 years or 4 years, as the case may be. But the majority of those countries are pushing and have 2-term presidents. I bring you the good news that in the last 2 years, we have seen over 20 elections in Africa. And out of those, we have had the bad news of Ivory Coast, which got it right. And we have had, well, Kenya this time was, you know, quite calm. You know, but these stories of elections, they are not just coming out of Africa. You would think the mature democracies would not have issues following their elections. But we see in certain countries people who are not able to accept the position of the people have spoken. They do it in different ways than Africans do it. But we observe these and say that, you know, what is happening, and is this the test of democracy? The rule of law that we were traditionally told in economics, that when you have good governance, the rule of law, transparency, lack of corruption, FDIs would automatically fly into a country. We look today and we keep looking back and say, where are the FDIs? But we see the FDIs go into unstable regions. And we see the clarion of corruption been very high against African countries. We want to see the clarion of corruption saying, who are the corruptors and what action are we taking against the corruptors? If we are to weed and read corruption, we need to look at both sides of the equation, the corruptors and those who have been corrupted, so that we can see a continent on the move. The biggest challenge we suffer from is lack of knowledge about Africa. And I want to emphasize, and I cannot overemphasize it, that the treating of Africa as a country, a continent so diverse in culture, that all of us learned in history, and I know you also did, that it is a backward continent. It's an uncivilized continent, that it is so rich in culture, so rich in humanity, that is not taught, but a part and a culture of the people. That is the good news, Africa, that I want to share with you. We see an Africa that is talking about intra-regional trade, that let us trade with each other. If you look at countries like Botswana, which are landlocked, which suffer from peculiarities of landlocked country, we are grateful to the authors and the researchers who take these differences and highlight them and look at the LDCs and say what needs to happen there, and look at the middle income countries and see the problems differently from region to region. But we are happy today to be singing ECOWAS and to be flying the ECOWAS flag. We are happy to be flying the SADC flag. We are happy to be flying the East African Community flag. We are happy to be flying the COMESA flag. Not only that, we are happy to see these institutions talking together and say, let's be one, so that we reduce the barriers to trade, so that we do things in a similar way, so that we have predictability, so that the science, when I read the science and I'm in Maputo, Mozambique, and I'm a tourist, the same science in Maputo would mean the same science in Botswana. We are looking today and seeing the Africa, which has hotels of very high standards, which have rooms bigger than Europe, which have the luxuries that the tourist is looking for. We are today looking at the Africa which requires environment impact assessment studies before projects are carried out. For it means that they are alive to conservation. It means that they are alive to using the resources and thinking about the future generations. Well, they said I've talked too much. So I knew when I saw it coming. But in conclusion, therefore, we African ambassadors represent a positive Africa, and we invite you to the Africa of our world. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much.